Very good morning, everyone. The last day of TC. Hope you have been having a really good TC time here. Paul and I are going to talk to you about the Tableau mobile app, some of its features, and how you can deploy this at your company successfully. Before we get started, let me introduce myself. My name is Shyam. I was at Data Night Out last night, and yeah, way to go.
You guys have fun?
Yeah.
Night out?
I'm a software engineer at Tableau. I've been at Tableau for about 2 years and a few months now. And this is my first time presenting at TC. This is my third TC, but this is my first time presenting here.
All right, Shyam.
Thank you. Okay. Paul, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Paul Carden. Oh, sorry. You did that for me. My name is Paul Carden. I also went to TC last night. And you're probably saying, Paul, what is that you're holding? Is that a half-eaten ice cream bar? Why are you holding a half-eaten ice cream bar? Well, the answer is I'd rather be holding a half-eaten piece of pie, but I couldn't find any. So, because pies and bars, they kind of just go with Tableau, right? So if you can find an ice cream bar, you should be able to find some pie somewhere too. But that's enough about my party habits. I've been at Tableau for almost 5 years, and I've presented at a few conferences before. But this is the first time that Shyam and I are presenting this topic, and we're excited to do it. So we're both part of the Tableau mobile team, the development team. Here's a picture of us earlier this week. And we're not just the development team, but we also encompass user experience, people who design the great mobile interfaces, support, documentation. It's a great team, and it's a lot of fun to be part of it. Now, let's talk a little bit about you. What are you here for, and what do you expect to get out of this session? Well, you may be a Tableau champion who's trying to get mobile into their corporate environment, or you may be a Tableau server administrator, and you're getting requests from your mobile users to say, hey, I would like to connect my device to my Tableau data so I can have it outside the corporate network and see and understand my data wherever I am. You may be in a part of an IT department, and you're tasked with getting operations or security going, and you want to make sure that your data is secure and safe no matter where it is. So we're going to talk about all these different aspects, and we'll say some high-level things, we'll say some fairly low-level things, but hopefully you'll get something out of this, and you'll also have information maybe to pass on to others in your organization that would be more responsible for parts of this. But let's go ahead and get started. The agenda. Shyam is going to give an introduction to the Tableau mobile app and just tell you what are some of its features, how does it work with Tableau Server. Then you're going to learn about how you can get signed into a Tableau server, how you can make that connection between the device and the data that you want. We'll talk a little bit about mobile device management. This is a facility that you can use to customize Tableau Mobile to make it easier for your users to get signed in and get to their data. We'll talk a little bit about a couple of things that will help you as you try to administer that and as to make you successful in keeping your data safe and secure no matter where it is. And then finally, we'll leave some time for Q&A at the end. So Shyam, go ahead and tell us about the Tableau mobile app and what it does.
Sure. The vision of the Tableau mobile product is to be the fastest and most delightful way to stay on top of your data. With mobile devices, you're on the go. You want to pull out your phone, you want to get to your data and answer questions really quick. And mobile devices also have touch interactivity, so it has to be delightful too. And we don't believe that mobile is just a different form factor, but it's an entirely new way of working and interacting with your data. When we first came out with the mobile app, it was on the iPad, and then we added support for iPhones. And now it's also supported on Android devices. By a show of hands, who are iOS users? Okay, and Android? And anyone that's neither Android or iOS? We're just talking about mobile devices here. Okay, great. So let's look at some of the features of the Tableau mobile app. There's a video that I'll walk you through. When you first launch the mobile app, you can see some sample vizzes. You can interact with them, but you don't have to connect to a server. There are different examples that you could try out. The sign-in option is on the top left. I'm going to go ahead and sign in. The first step is to pick a server. You could connect to Tableau Online or a server that's hosted in your enterprise. So in this case, I'm going to connect to my Tableau server. The next step is to enter the username and password. I have the username already typed in. Please don't tell anyone my password. It's 8 dots. OK, so let's sign in. And there, we're signed in. So these are all the visits that I have. These are the visits that I have access to on this site. I would like to draw your attention to the lower side of the screen. There are 3 options: favorites, recents, and all. These are different ways of organizing your visits. Recents is a list of visits that you have accessed most recently on the site, and all is a collection of all the visits that you have access to on it. You can filter visits, you can sort them, and of course, you can search for them. So I would like to search for a viz by name tourism, so let me go ahead and do that. So let's tap on the viz and get right to it. So as you see here, the mobile app has full interactivity. The experience of interacting with the viz is the same as you would on a browser. There are tooltips. So you can interact with the marks. And so I would like to know how much is Europe's tourism economy worth. It's about 528 billion. And let's compare that with US. Oh, that's all of America's. There are other features in the mobile app. You could share what you see. You can take a snapshot of the viz that you're looking at and share it. A new feature that is going to come soon in the next beta release is the ability to annotate these screenshots. There's an option, annotate, on the lower side of the screen. So this will let you scribble on the screenshot. You can add your comments to it and then share it with your friends or colleagues. So I'm going to highlight something that I liked in the viz here. I'm not very artistic. That's sort of obvious here. And you could type in something to add an extra message there. Once that is done, you can share it using the apps installed on your phone. You could email it to someone, or you could use messages. Currently, this feature is going to be on iOS for now, and it's under development for Android. OK, let's cancel that and go back to our viz. Another feature that I would like to show you is the ability to comment from the mobile app. So commenting has been around since 10.4. And you can add comments from the phone and as well as a browser. So these comments are synchronized. So you can collaborate with someone who's working from a browser. And if you're on the phone, you can collaborate with them too. There are other features. And one that I would like to show is the ability to change the state of favorites of a viz from here. So let's go back, open the options menu. And I can add or remove a viz from my list of favorites from here. In this case, I'm going to add it. So talking about favorites, why do we want to add a viz to a favorite? When we add a viz to a favorite, the mobile app caches snapshots of these dashboards from time to time when it has access to internet and is also connected to the server. What this means is the next time you're offline and you don't have access to internet, you can still see a most recent snapshot of your dashboard. It doesn't have interactivity, but you still can see what your dashboard looks like. There's also an indication there. It's a light gray font on the top, which says when the snapshot was most recently updated. If you try to interact with this, it's going to show an error message saying that the phone is not connected to the internet. But the next time you have access to internet, you can continue interacting with the visitors. So there it is, all the cool features of the Tableau mobile app. So managing mobile is different. There are multiple operating systems, and they don't make it any easier. There are 2 different app stores, and there are 2 different apps. So you need, Apple has its own Apple has its own app store, and Google has Play Store. There are different security concerns when it comes to mobile devices. It is so much more easier to lose a phone as compared to a workstation that's on your desk. Bring your own device is common these days. Employees like to bring their own phones and have work-related apps installed on it. A device is personal, and this makes it challenging for IT administrators too. How would you go about managing a device which has both personal and work-related information on it? MDM, or mobile device management, is one of the ways to do that. Paul will be talking about this in a little more detail in the coming slides.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. But before we talk about that, let's talk about how we make that connection between your user and your Tableau data. Signing into server is the journey that we need to go on in order to get that deployed so your users can enjoy it. It's an epic journey. We'll go through heaven and hell to get there, I promise. So let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is just connect the device to the server itself. It's the can you hear me now scenario where the device can actually reach that Tableau server and establish a connection and communicate. Now, because your data is often inside a corporate firewall and your mobile device is often outside a corporate firewall, that's not as straightforward as it sounds. So let's talk about some ways that you can get around this issue. The first one is to use what's called a reverse proxy. And maybe your corporate environment already has this. The way that this works is the mobile device does not connect directly to the Tableau server, but it instead connects to an edge machine called a proxy server, which then proxies the communication between the mobile device and the Tableau server. So you can imagine what happens is the Tableau mobile app sets a URL and tries to connect to that, but it gets a response from this intermediate server saying, I'm not sure if I trust you, who are you? Give me something that lets me know who you are, and then it will redirect the communication if it's satisfied that it knows who that user is. So it makes it a little bit more complicated for the Tableau mobile app because there's so many flavors of proxies, and so sometimes we'll encounter a new one. Anyway, if you have that environment and you're struggling with the installation, it may be something that's set up on your side, or it could be that we haven't seen this flavor before and we need to do something. We often work with corporations that are doing that initial installation of Tableau mobile through a proxy server. Now, a more straightforward way to do it is through what's called a VPN, or a virtual private network. And this way, the conceptual idea is that a hole is punched through the firewall, and this tunneling is then allowed so that the app can connect directly with the Tableau server. Now, in truth, there are probably servers in the middle that are forwarding this communication, but the point is that from the app's level, it looks like it's connecting directly to the server, and so that makes it a lot easier for the mobile app to just directly communicate and not have to worry about some negotiating proxy authentication and things like that. So if your corporation, if your environment has the choice between those two, or if you've got the VPN solution, then that's an easier way to get the app up and running, and it's more straightforward. Of course, the third option is you may have something that's directly open to the internet already. Maybe you have a subscription to Tableau Online, or you've bought Tableau Server and you're hosting it in a cloud environment like AWS or Azure or something like that. So in that case, the Tableau mobile app does connect directly through just the internet protocols, and the communication is a lot more straightforward. The main point of all of this, though, is that you want to go and figure out what is currently happening in your corporate environment. Make sure you're working with your IT department and not against them or around them. You don't want to gamble with the security of your data. There's my Vegas reference right there. All right. So signing into server, check. We know how to do that. Now, the next thing we need to do is make sure that we can trust the server. So there's always a chance that there's some server out there pretending to be my Tableau server, and then taking my credentials and my data and doing something malicious with it. So the way to ensure that that happens is by using a secure communication protocol. HTTPS is the name for a generic term for that type of protocol. And you may have a philosophical question of, do I go to the extra effort of doing this secure protocol or not? Do I take a chance on just using HTTP and not having to do the extra setup? Well, since it's such a philosophical argument, I've decided to call on one of our great American philosophers to help us reason about this question. Yes, when you die, if you get a choice between going to regular heaven or pie heaven, choose pie heaven. It might be a trick, but if it's not, boy, all right? So
Paul, if you went to pie heaven, what line would you be at?
I would be in the chocolate cream pie line, Sean.
Okay.
That would be my first choice of pies. How about you?
I think I would go for the apple pie.
Good, we've got a fruit pie representative. All right, fruit pie representatives here. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, cream. Anybody not fruit or cream? Don't raise your hand. If you're eating that vegetable pie, just don't, just keep it to yourself. Well, how does this apply? If you're going to choose a data transport protocol, if you get a choice between an insecure protocol and a secure one, choose a secure one. Why? Because it won't be a trick. So, boy, you will be in data pie heaven, okay? And why is it heaven? Because the HTTPS protocol ensures that you're talking to the right server. And we'll talk a little bit about how this is done through certificates. It also ensures that your data is encrypted so that even if there were an internal user on your network sniffing the data, it would be encrypted, and so it would be impossible to decode. So even in your intranet settings, it's important. And really from a security standpoint, you should always assume that your intranet could be compromised in some way anyway. The mobile developers, iOS and Apple and Google, are always upping the security requirements. And so right now we have to say, we have to give specific sort of reasons why we're not supporting only HTTPS, or why we even allow HTTP network protocols to occur on our device. Chrome, if you sign into an HTTP browser, it won't let you use any of your saved passwords or anything like that. So the game is being raised, and we need to make sure that we're ready for that area. So let's talk about SSL certificates. This is how you can ensure that the server that you're talking to is a trusted server. And these certificates are issued by what's called a certificate authority. There are a lot of public, well-known certificate authorities, dozens of them. DigiCert is a common one, and several others. GoDaddy has their own certificate authorities, for example. So you probably already have some of these installed in your browser. And in that case, let me just go over what happens in 60 seconds or less. If you get you connect to a server that has a certificate that's signed by Certificate Authority A, that's a well-known certificate authority, the mobile app says, yes, I know about that. Thumbs up, let's talk. Similarly, if you have a certificate that's signed by Certificate Authority B, because it's a well-known authority, the mobile app says, yes, I know who that server is, I trust it, and we can communicate. Now, what often happens in a corporate environment is you have what's called a self-signed certificate, or something that you have created yourself. You didn't want to go out and buy a certificate from an authority, but you can create your own internal one. Now, when the mobile app sees that, it says, I have no idea who that is. I'm not going to talk to you. Leave quickly. But you can get around the solution. What you can do is take that certificate and install it onto the mobile device. Have your IT department help you do that. It usually happens through email. And then the mobile device knows and recognizes that certificate authority. And so now when your self-signed certificate shows up in the communication, the mobile app says, yes, I know that certificate because you just installed it on me, so let's talk. And then we've solved this problem of being able to trust the certificate, and we are in pie heaven. Sean, tell us a little bit about authentication, and how is it the next step in this process?
Sure. So the first two steps were us trying to connect to the server and trying to see if the server is reliable. Authentication is the server trying to see if the user is recognized, and how does this work? There are different kinds of authentication that we support in the mobile app. The key to this is getting a workgroup session ID. Don't worry about what a workgroup session ID is. Just think of it as a magic key that gets you access to all the workbooks and vizes on the Tableau server. The three types of authentication that we support is local auth, which is the username password, which we saw in the demo earlier. The other is SAML and Kerberos. So how does the mobile app know which type of authentication is supported on a server? So when we first connect to a server, XML information is exchanged between the mobile app and the server, and this tells the mobile app what types of authentication is supported. So in local auth, the user is displayed a username and password field. Whatever is typed in is encrypted and sent to the server. And if the credentials check out, a workgroup session ID is issued to the mobile app, or the magic key. A variant of this is using Active Directory. In this case, the credentials are verified by the AD and not the Tableau server. And this is probably common if you have Windows environment set up in your organization. For some non-redeemable bonus points, can someone tell me what SAML stands for? Oh, yeah. Boom. That's good. Excellent. Yeah, SAML stands for Security Assertion Markup Language. So what SAML does is, SAML is a way of splitting the service provider from the identity provider. In the earlier example of local auth, the service provider and the identity provider was Tableau server. In this case, the mobile app is going to be the client, Tableau server is the service provider, and identity providers can be a third-party service that you can connect to. There's Ping, there's Okta, and if you've connected to Tableau online, that is a SAML experience too.
Several other SAML providers, though.
Yep. These are not the only ones. There are many others. I would like to draw your attention to the screenshots. As you see, there's username and password on all the three. But it doesn't have to be username and password. SAML can have security questions as the challenge for users too. There are a few additional steps involved when connecting to a server using SAML. But the key thing to note here is we enter the credentials, or we answer the challenge questions in a Webview, which is displayed by the IDP, the identity provider. And then the IDP verifies. And if everything checks out and the user is recognized, it redirects back with an assertion, and the Tableau server then issues a workgroup session ID to the mobile app. The third type of authentication supported in the mobile app is Kerberos. Kerberos is named after the three-headed dog that guarded the underworld, according to Greek mythology. That was the reference to heaven and hell.
Reference, right?
Yeah. Kerberos has been around for a really long time, and it's still a pretty good way of authenticating. It supports single sign-on for multiple services, and it has long-lived sessions using tickets. There are certain requirements prerequisites that is needed to have Kerberos enabled for Tableau and Tableau Mobile and Server. You need to have Active Directory set up in your organization, and you need to have some profiles installed on the mobile device. And each profile has two pieces of information, a user principal name, which is unique to every user, and has realm, which is nothing but information about the Active Directory domain. If Kerberos fails, a fallback can be configured. A fallback can be configured to either SAML or local auth, or simply nothing. So in Kerberos, the user certificate has the user principal name and information about the realm. So there's no need to enter username and password here. The certificate is used to decode the ticket, and if everything checks out, the Kerberos key, the Active Directory credentials are verified. Tableau would then issue a workgroup session ID to the mobile app. As I said, the user certificate decodes the ticket, and the user does not have to type credentials. And I think the risk of awesomeness is extremely high today. So I want to show you a quick demo of what this experience looks like. So as you can see in the mobile app, I'm at the pick a server screen. All I have to do is type in a server name and then hit connect. And the expectation is that I should not see a username and password challenge. So connect to this server, Alpo. And there it is. We're signed into the app.
That is awesome. It would be awesome for your users, too.
Sorry? Sure. So the first step would be to request for a ticket. And
are you asking how does the ticket get to the mobile device? Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about that in MDM. It can be emailed or it can be provisioned. So yeah, just next section we'll talk about that.
Okay. So there it is. So we're signed in on phones, tablets, Android, and iOS. So we talked about how to connect to a server and how to trust the server and how the server would recognize.
Shyam, I'm noticing that my chocolate cream pie is gone. It's been replaced with apple pie. Is there something you want to tell me?
I did that. I was hoping you wouldn't notice that, but
well, rude.
Don't mind me.
Okay.
I like apple pie.
I know.
This brings us to two conflicting views. Users prefer never to have to type in credentials again. But as an IT administrator, I would like to have security as my topmost priority. So Tableau sessions generally expire after about 4 hours of inactivity, and you may need to enter credentials again, but it really depends on the kind of authentication that you're using. If you have the Keep Me Signed In option enabled for the local auth, then you don't have to enter credentials again. In SAML, you have to enter credentials when the session expires. In the next slide, I'll be talking about that a little more. And for Kerberos, the only time you have to enter credentials is when the ticket renewal is needed. So for SAML, the connected clients is a feature that shipped in Tableau in 9.3. So it's been around for a while. And what this lets us do is it lets the user stay signed in for a longer time. And it also allows the administrators to manage the sessions on these connected clients. A user or an admin can log into the server and manage these tokens. If you lose a device or if a device is stolen, you could simply delete the token from here, and the session would expire on the phone. This feature is currently only available on Tableau Mobile for Tableau Online, but it's there on iOS and the Android apps. So we talked about some of the features of the mobile app and how we can connect to the server. Let's talk about how we can deploy this mobile app at an enterprise scale. Paul, tell us more about MDM.
Sure. So we've mentioned MDM, or mobile device management, a couple of times, and mobile device management is really sort of an umbrella term that refers to not only managing the device itself, but also the configuration, the features of the device, the apps that are installed on the device, and so we'll go over each of those in turn. So what exactly is a mobile device management system? Well, it's a server, it's server software that has then a companion app installed on a device that enables that device to enroll into the server. And so then that server is aware of each app, mobile device and the user that owns it. That server could be on-premise in your company, or if you, depending on which manufacturer of MDM software you've chosen, it may be a cloud version as well. Apple and Google both support this. They know that it's a very important thing for corporations and corporate environments, and so they support it really from the ground up. Really what it makes it enables you to do is to have greater control from your IT department over the data that gets installed and used on the device. So how do you configure a device, and what are some of the options that you have with an MDM system? You can configure this VPN solution we talked about, enable certain apps or the whole device to connect through the firewall. You can install certificates. So we talked about the SSL certificates so that we can trust our servers. These Kerberos certificates that allow the ticket granting to occur can also be installed through MDM. The nice thing about that is because your MDM system knows which user has which device, you can install the user-specific certificate right on that device, and it just is a seamless experience for the user. And in fact, it can be a seamless experience for you as well. You can talk to Apple and give them the settings that you want installed, and they can do that from their side. And so when it arrives on site, it's already pre-configured. So that's a pretty cool option. I know a lot of educational institutions do something like that. Here's just a sample dashboard of MDM software and some of the options this particular vendor has as far as configuring devices. So you can also control the devices as far as requiring that they've set a passcode, disabling cameras, screenshotting, things like that. You can set up so that when the device is lost, you can remotely wipe your company's data from it. So there's a lot of control you have over the device itself from an MDM solution. And then here's a sample dashboard from some MDM software of the different options you have for configuring the device and controlling it. Now, you can also control the apps that go on the device, and this is really where Tableau Mobile comes into the picture. For example, if you wanted every user in your corporation to have the same version of the Tableau Mobile app, you could deploy that out to each of them at the same time. Or maybe you want a certain subset of users to have that and try it out for a few days before you give it out to the broader organization. You can do that as well. And it's easy to do. Now, there's 3 different methods of controlling apps through an MDM system. And this first one that we'll talk about is the one that the Tableau mobile app supports. It's called app config. And what it is a set of configuration parameters that can be configured on the MDM administrator's site and then sent down to the device so that then the mobile app can read in those settings and then respond accordingly. So that's kind of a lightweight way to integrate, because any MDM vendor that then knows how to do this app config solution can then configure the mobile app, and it's not specific to a particular vendor. There are a couple of different vendor-specific solutions. One is called app wrapping, and it's pretty heavyweight, and so Tableau hasn't really tried to get that running. But the other one, which we are working on right now, is called SDK support, and that's where we incorporate a library from a particular MDM vendor into our app, and then that allows that vendor to take more complete control of the app and the facilities. And we can announce that we've got integration with the Good Dynamics or BlackBerry system in beta right now. And so if you're a company that has that in your corporate environment, it's a good opportunity to get into our beta program and see what help us work out the last few issues in getting that available to everyone. And we're working with some other SDK solutions as well. I mentioned Good. AirWatch, Mobilelron, Citrix, those are names you've probably heard as well, or maybe using in your corporate environment. We can say that we know we're compatible with AirWatch and Mobilelron just because we've put them, those installations on site, we've tested our app with it, and they work with this app config facility that we talked about. But that doesn't mean that other ones won't, especially if they support app config, they're likely to work. And so what we recommend is you work with your IT department and with your MDM vendor and just get the Tableau mobile app into your MDM environment and try it out. And it's likely to work even as is. All right, let's talk a little bit specifically about how you can use this app config facility to customize the mobile app. Tableau's focused initially on streamlining the sign-in process and making it easier for you to sign in. You saw, for example, with a Kerberos certificate, how you can get that sign-in to be almost just one touch from the user's perspective. And let's see how we can do that. So as I said, the App Store has the Tableau mobile app. The MDM administrator downloads that app into their corporate MDM environment, so it's a recognized app within that App Store, the company's App Store. And then the configuration is brought in from the app config and then sent down to the mobile device. So when Tableau Mobile starts up, it says, hey, do I have a configuration file or some settings already preset for me? If so, I'm going to use those. And so, again, this can be tailored to specific to the user, specific to groups of users. Here's an example of what types of tailoring you can do. You can preset some URLs for Tableau servers that you want them to be able to connect to so they don't have to remember to type them in themselves, make mistakes with their fingers. You can give those servers friendly names. You can give your set of users, your set of servers a friendly name. And you can hide some of the other affordances on the menu. You can hide the connected Tableau online. You can hide the user type-in box. Let me show you what this looks like. So here's the vanilla sign-in dialog if you haven't done any configuration. If I add this list of hosts, then the user sees at the bottom there some custom servers that they can choose. I can add a friendly name for those servers, and I can add a nice friendly title to say, hey, this is our company servers that now you're looking at. Because I want them only to connect to those, I can set something that says hide the server name and remove the Tableau Online button. And now you see that sign-in dialog has been totally customized for your organization. So they just have the two different options to sign into, either their main or their sales or however you want to configure it. So it's a great way to funnel the users into the place that you want them to go. Yeah, question? Yeah, if you wanted Tableau Online to be one of those company custom lists, you could add in the Tableau Online URL and call it Tableau Online, for sure. And so here is, again, a sample dashboard from an MDM vendor on how you'd use this app config and how you set the keys and set it to the username and things like that. So it makes it pretty straightforward. And the nice thing is, you as an administrator can configure it once, and then it's sent out to all your devices, and you don't have to go desk to desk and help each person set it up. So it's a great solution. There's one other thing we want to talk about as far as just managing Tableau Server. Sham talked a little bit about the offline favorites. These are snapshots that they're images that the server generates on a regular basis. It's in a backgrounder job if you're a server administrator. And then what happens is the device signs in and says, I'd like the latest set of them. They're downloaded to the server. Then on a regular basis, they're updated on the server. The user can refresh their favorites list, and they get downloaded to the device. iOS actually currently also has a facility to do that in the background, so even if you don't request, it'll update it. That's not an Android feature yet. But we do have offline snapshots working in this, the release that's just coming out this quarter. So now, if you sign out of the server or if you delete the mobile app, then those snapshots are gone. You don't have to worry about them being on your device anymore. They've been, and so there's no way that a malicious user could somehow recover them. But if you have security levels that don't even let you put that data on a mobile device just because it may go out of the corporate environment at all, you can turn that off on a per site basis and just say, I don't want these offline snapshots. I only want the data to be there when I'm connected. So that's just a good thing to know if your administrator has those type of requirements. Now, one final thing I'll say about customizing the mobile app experience is something we're calling the mobile app bootstrap. It's code that gives you kind of a bootstrap into creating your own mobile app that would connect to Tableau Server. So it's covered in-depth in a session next hour. And it's a great way to make a really custom experience. If you want the app to look like something that your company created, or if you have already a mobile app and you just want to incorporate a few Tableau vizzes into that app, we show you code of how to connect to Tableau Server, how to authenticate, and things like that. We have sample code. Again, in depth next hour. Get in touch with them and if you're interested in that. Now, you're going to have issues in this sign-in and connection process, and so Sham's going to talk to us a little bit about how we can troubleshoot some of those issues.
Yeah, things don't always go as expected, so we have tools to fix that when we run into issues. Network issues, we use Fiddler. Fiddler allows you to intercept HTTP traffic between the device and the Tableau server. And the way to set it up is you have proxy set up on the mobile device, which connects to the computer or the PC where Fiddler is running. And Fiddler would then intercept the traffic between the mobile app and the Tableau server. You can also install Fiddler root certificates on the mobile device. This would let you intercept HTTPS traffic also. For SSL and certificate issues, we use SSL Detective. There are other free apps for Android also. What you do here is you type in a server name, and SSL Detective will give you all the information that you need about the kind of certificates that are on the server and who the authorities are. And in general, if you have issues with the mobile app and you need to get in touch with Tableau support, there's an option in the settings to send support logs. When this option is enabled and you shake the device, logs are automatically generated, which then you can either upload to Dropbox or attach it via email and then send it out to Tableau support. And this feature is there on both iOS and Android. Although the screenshot here is from iOS, the feature is on Android too. Paul, would you like to explain about some of these documentations we have?
Yeah, so if you have further information needs, we have several white papers and getting started guides available on the Tableau site. And so we'd recommend that you take a look at those, and just searching through the help inside the online help system in Tableau will lead you to these articles. There is the sample source code for the mobile app Bootstrap is out on GitHub. Another great place to go for getting more in-depth information about connecting to Tableau server, deploying the mobile app, and giving your customers and users an enjoyable experience. The other sessions, so we talked about the one coming up about the mobile app Bootstrap. The Tableau labs are still talking about new interface paradigms for the Tableau mobile app. If you'd like to come and look at those and give them some feedback, they're there until 1:45 today. Previous sessions that went on in Tableau, if you search for mobile in your Tableau, in your TC17 app, you're going to find dozens of things. These are some of the most relevant ones to our talk today, just as far as creating a good mobile experience and getting your users authenticated and signed into Tableau. So we do have 10, 15 minutes for questions. Here's just some prompts of the types of things we covered. What can we help you with? Yes?
Yeah, we have used Kerberos and we have Citrix SecureHub. I noticed you had Citrix up there, but didn't mention it. Did you do any testing or validation with that one?
Right, so the question is, how does Tableau Mobile integrate with Citrix? So I do, I'm trying to think if Tableau Mobile, if Citrix follows this app config. If it does, but I kind of think it doesn't, then we would be supported now. Now, like we said, we're looking at SDK solutions, and Citrix is on our list of SDK integration solutions. We're not ready to announce a time frame, but the ball is rolling. We're finally getting into the SDK support, and so if it's not ready at next TC, come look me up. I'll give you some pie.
Sure.
Yeah.
Here, and
Okay.
the gentleman there. Sorry, could you repeat that?
Is the snapshotting automatically enabled on server?
By default, it is enabled.
Yeah, the question is, are offline favorites
Yeah.
are on by default? Yeah, yeah. The default is
Yeah, the
on.
default, yes.
Yeah, the default frequency for the snapshots, the backgrounder job runs every 4 hours. And so, but yeah, and so you can adjust that.
Okay, one question from there, and then here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. The question is there a way as a server admin I can see what my mobile users are as opposed to people that are connecting over a desktop browser or a laptop? We don't have that now. That data is available if you went through your logs. Each device that connects to the Tableau server has a user agent string is what it's called. And so you could separate out agent strings from mobile devices versus desktop devices and create a viz based on that. and we just don't ship a viz like that. But it's a good idea. We should put one onto the server admin viz section.
Yep.
Two-part question. In the app, does it show only visits that were published as a mobile app, or does it show all visits on your Tableau server?
It shows all visits that you have access to on the site. It doesn't have to be a mobile-specific viz, but yeah, if you want to have a good experience on the mobile device, use Device Designer. There was a session yesterday, I guess, related to
this morning. Yeah.
This morning? Yeah.
Yeah, the list of vizzes will be the same whether you connect from a browser
Yeah.
or a mobile device.
Okay, so from a content management perspective for end users that may not navigate the Tableau server portal directly and get to the content in some other manner, is there a way to configure what they see in the list by project or like a mobile setting specific? Because like our users are going to go in, they're going to see hundreds of vizzes, maybe 50 of them are mobile specific, but they don't know what the names of the vizzes are. They're represented by friendly names in whatever portal they normally hit.
Sure. So in the app, there are filters. You could filter by project. So when you go to the All tab, it shows a list of all the vizzes. You could probably have hundreds of vizzes there. But then you can filter by project. So if there's a specific project that you would like to look at, you can set filters there. There are also filters based on who created it. So you can, if you just want to look at vizzes created by, there's a person in your team who works on vizzes, publishes dashboards. So you could filter by name, and you could set these filters there. So that's one of the ways to access or get access to content really quick on the mobile app.
Yeah, and our content management team is looking at that particular issue because as a mobile user, you may not want to focus in on the same set of vizzes you would focus on when you're on your desktop. And so this lab that I mentioned about new user interfaces for mobile, that's one of the major questions of how would you as a user like to access that data. So if you have particular thoughts on that, I'd definitely encourage you to go down and talk to them about future things that we could do to make that easier.
Okay. Somebody else had a question there. Yeah.
Just like Bank of America app uses a fingerprint scanner, does Tableau use Tableau card?
So you're talking about using Touch ID to sign into a Tableau?
Touch ID for iOS, fingerprint scanner for
Right. Yeah, I've got one on my Pixel phone too. But the thing, so the Touch ID is used to protect a user from opening an app. It's not actually, like, it doesn't have credentials to the Tableau server. It just it protects the device and the app. And so we could add an extra level of security, and we've talked about it, but which is I can't open the app unless I have, unless I have the right fingerprint or I have the touch, or I have my passcode, for example. But then the same credentials would have to be stored or saved, like Shyam was talking about. If you had Kerberos, so it was automatically signed in, then yeah, Touch ID would be kind of a one-step way to do that. We've talked about it, and it's a good feature request.
Okay. Yep.
if the Tableau server endpoint is open to the public, do you recommend having a firewall or CDN or WAF in front of it to prevent DDoS or people hacking it?
Additional security is always preferred, but it really depends on what kind of environment and what the needs of the server are. I think most of the government and with healthcare industry, they have firewalls in place, but if it really depends on what your needs are, I would say.
Yeah,
It is good if you can set it up, but yeah, it really depends on what your expectations are.
Yeah, and we wouldn't want to try to recommend it because we don't know your user scenario. It's this balance of the two talk bubbles that Shyam talked about. The users always want the access, and the administrators always want the security. So you've got to balance that in your corporate environment. Say, what risks can I take to enable my users to get their work done versus, putting their data at risk. Tableau Online is open to the internet, so we do have that work. it's a common thing to have a Tableau server that's open. And you know, I guess I don't know offhand what type of like DDoS mitigation the Tableau Online servers have, but it's a good question. But I think it's something we could follow up with your Tableau support person if you're interested in getting that implemented.
Yep. Yeah, you could. So it only generates the logs, and you have to still attach it to a mail. So you could send it to anyone. Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for coming to our session, and I hope that it's given you some great ideas about deploying Tableau Mobile so that your customers can enjoy it. Of course, we want you to fill out our survey. Let us know what you liked, what we can improve for next year's discussion. Pie lovers, give us straight 5s. That's the only contract we have right now. And again, my name is Paul Cardin, and this is
I'm
Shyam.
Shyam.
And thanks for coming to our session.
Thank you.